My job is to really oversee the day-to-day operations, but also the interaction between the clinical staff and the uniformed staff, right? The retirees still come around, they go out, they go into the field, they do the outreach. The clinicians and all those people first went into the firehouses, nobody wanted to talk to them. Like I said, 15 years later, they were the same individuals. In some cases, were having arguments about who had the better therapist. We took this job as first responders. We know the hazards of it, but when the hazards come from within, and then the outward action is to take your own life, that's very unsettling for first responders. It's unsettling for anybody.
Welcome to Responder Resilience, along with Dr. Stacy Raymond. I'm David Dashinger. Today we're speaking with Lieutenant Andrew Kane, who's got 30 years of experience in the FDNY. He was on the front lines of Ground Zero during September 11th and dedicated his life to helping fellow firefighters and their families navigate the challenges of mental health and substance abuse. And now as the Deputy Director of FDNY Counseling Services Unit, Drew's insights into behavioral health trends and the future of fire service wellness are invaluable. So we're going to dive deep into the real issues facing first responders today, including trauma, best practices in mental health support, and how we can build a stronger, healthier culture within the fire service.
This episode is made possible by Circle Brain. If you're a first responder, it's time to take brain health seriously. Go to circlebrain.com to learn more, because the toughest battles deserve the sharpest minds. There's a new app built by firefighters for firefighters, and it's called Crackle. Download the app now for free as a Legacy member and get early access to exclusive content, tools, and updates as they drop. Get the free app at crackle.respondertv.com.
This episode is made possible by the First Responder Center for Excellence. Discover more at firstrespondercenter.org and connect with us on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.
We invite you to like and subscribe: YouTube, Responder Resilience; Facebook, Responder TV; LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and go to our website, respondertv.com, for past episodes and guest information. We'll be right back to speak with Lieutenant Kane after this.
In this family, more of us die by our own hands than by the hazards of the job.
In this family, up to a quarter of 911 telecommunicators have symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
In this family, our mental health and wellness are in crisis,
while responders are quietly suffering.
In this family, many struggle with job-related stress,
burnout, moral injury, sleep disruptions, substance abuse,
and relationship problems.
In this family, we can help the helpers
with vital information and resources,
resilient strategies,
and success stories of overcoming the obstacles.
In this family, no one is alone.
Welcome to Responder Resilience with co-hosts retired Lieutenant David Dashinger, Dr. Stacy Raymond, and Bonnie Rumley, LCSW EMTB.
Our guest today is Drew Kane. He's a 30-year veteran of the New York City Fire Department, having served for 12 years at Engine Company 37 in Harlem, and he responded to the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001, and participated in search and rescue efforts for months thereafter. This experience fueled his passion to support firefighters and their families dealing with substance abuse and mental health issues. In 2004, he joined the FDNY's Counseling Service Unit as a peer substance abuse counselor, eventually earning his master's degree in social work, and was promoted to program director of the Addiction Treatment Program, overseeing clinical interventions before becoming deputy director in 2020. And now he manages operations across 6 sites. Lieutenant Kane responds to incidents involving line-of-duty deaths and natural disasters, and has received the Uniform Public Service Award from the Karen Foundation twice. He lectures on topics like substance abuse and PTSD. He teaches aspiring counselors at LaGuardia Community College and contributes to the training of firefighters nationwide. Additionally, he's a master instructor for the IAFF and is trained in smart techniques for stress management. LT, welcome to Responder Resilience.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
So, Drew, you've had a remarkable journey as a firefighter, and now you're a mental health advocate. Can you share how your experience on September 11th shaped your passion for assisting firefighters and their families?
Sure. I think I think at the time, nobody knew it, or at least I didn't know it, that was going to be where I would end up, in the mental health field. But that day, obviously, the devastation that day and the loss of life was unsurmountable. And being there for so many days, going through, as they refer to it as the pile, I can distinctly remember somebody come up to me and ask me if I wanted a bottle of water. And I was shocked by that. And I didn't really understand it. Like we're here, dig it, bottle of water. And I later learned that was really peer support for us.
Yeah.
That was actually somebody that was sent down there by my predecessor, Frank Lito, and just go see what they need. And that's how my interest got sparked.
Wow. Great.
And so if we fast forward, you actually pursued a master's degree in social work and went through a whole educational process. So how did that influence your journey? Kind of what prompted you to want to get deeper into it and to be of service in that way to the brothers and sisters?
Sure. Well, after that, my experience, down at 9/11, down at the site, being back at the firehouse, we had psychologists, we had social workers, psychiatrists that came in to the firehouse, and they were looking to help. And unfortunately, it was too soon. And nobody was really looking for that help, right? It was, I'm talking like maybe December of that year, October, December, after 9/11. And, but what sparked my interest was that, we had individuals that were looking to help us in such a unique and genuinely unforeseen situation. So that program was presented by retired firefighters, or I should say those members came in with retired firefighters. And nobody wanted to talk to the psychologist.
Right.
Nobody wanted.
Okay.
Right. Nobody wanted to talk to any of them. However, they went up to at the time, my senior firefighters went up to the retired guy, a lot of them knew him, and said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you bringing this guy in here? Why bring this girl in here? So thank God, my predecessor, Frank Lito, realized they talked to the retired firefighter. And that's for us really how, what we already had was a small peer program since 1990. But that's really how it expanded. And when I saw that, and they started coming, then the retired guys started coming. I was like, wow, this is interesting. And you heard some old stories and stuff. And that kind of really sparked my interest. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, due to an injury, I ended up in a light duty position with the counseling unit. And I knew some people. I had torn a meniscus in my knee, and it got better. And I went back to work, and they approached me and they said, would you want to work here for your day tours and work your night tours in the counseling unit? Background in the firehouse. Day tours were in the counseling unit, night tours in the firehouse. And I did that for several years. And I just kind of fell into it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I had a background in my own personal journey with sobriety.
Right.
And I started the addiction program. And I said, wow, we need this. We need this. We need somebody from that peer-to-peer perspective in there. Done that. And then it was suggested to me by a former director. He said, you can expand your knowledge and go back to school. And that's what I ended up doing. I went back and got my master's degree in social work. And that together with the, fireground experience, really gave me I felt the leg up. I was able to look at it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, who better, right? Because you were boots on the ground, and then you then go to school to become a therapist. I mean, I can see how they would want to talk to you. So, and David and I are aware of so many former first responders now turned therapists, or counselors, instructors, whatever the case may be. And I think that that's so valuable. The other idea that you just triggered in me was, it's an idea that I've had for a while, but I think I may have actually heard you speak about this back in like 2018, which is the retirees coming in. And I just think that, why doesn't every department, both police, fire, EMS, have their retirees come in as peer support, but anyway, that's a whole nother discussion because they've been there, done that, they're trusted. And I think that first responders, it would just be so much easier for them to, relate to the ones that have gone before them and seen and done almost everything that's still happening now.
Hey, first responders. You face tough calls and hazards every shift, but the fiercest battles, they're happening inside your brain. Meet Circle Brain, your essential mental training partner. Your brain adapts to stress, trauma, and exhausting shifts. but not always in ways that serve you. These invisible changes can show up as fatigue, brain fog, irritability, or memory lapses long before they become obvious. With a Circle, you get more than a gadget. Simply put on the headset and play a quick game. In minutes, you'll receive personalized insights into your mental speed, power, and focus. It's built on 60 years of neuroscience research and designed to boost the cognitive resilience you need to crush every challenge.
After 21 years as a first responder, I didn't realize how compromised my brain actually was until Circle showed me. And thankfully, it's helped me increase my overall brain health.
If you're a first responder or support those who are, it's time to take brain health seriously. If you're ready to level up your brain game, contact us now at sales@circlebrain.com. Circle, because the toughest battles deserve the sharpest minds.
So back to a different topic, questioning you about like your diversity of you're across six different areas within New York? Like, how do you?
Oh, yes. I mean, as far as the counseling unit.
Right. So then how do you address that? That's a huge number of people to cover.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the clinicians that you're referring to, or to just our membership that we serve?
Yeah. So what is your role as far as like overseeing 6 different,
Right.
counseling areas?
So we have a structure. We have a director, we have a clinical director, and myself as the deputy director. The difference with my position now as the deputy director is I also have the mental health background and the degree. So I can kind of cross both lines. So basically, the 6 sites are in different boroughs around the city. That grew from the need after 9/11. Right. So 9/11, everything, they had the insight, the foresight to really say, hey, we need something that's a little bit more easily accessible for our members because, we have Manhattan, we have 5 boroughs. So we have these other locations. One particular location just deals with substance abuse. But my job is to really oversee the day-to-day operations, but also the interaction between the clinical staff and the uniform staff, right? And the uniform members that are coming in looking for the help.
How does that work if a member is seeking help? Is it like kind of a walk-in basis and you set an appointment? Like, how do you coordinate that with shift work and all the other parameters that go into it?
Well, we try to be, openly, available to all different shifts. But unfortunately, right now we're limited. So we operate basically business hours, right? 8 to 4. But if need be, if somebody outside that box needs to be served, we will take care of that. And we also provide referrals. We understand that some of our members may not want to see somebody because we are connected with the fire department. We're basically, the way I describe it is, we're kind of in the middle of the counseling unit. Then you have our union and you have our administration. Union, is there for the members, for obviously for their rights and as employees. The administration kind of oversees, hey, you did something wrong. We need to, enforce some code or discipline. And how is that affecting the member? How is the member, working in their environment? How is that, part of social work is it's kind of like the biopsychosocial. They take the person in the environment. So that's where it's unique to have that education and look at it from that point of view, because it's not just, it's a different job. Let's be real, though. They're first responders, and they bring in a lot of stuff home with them, both physically and mentally. So we try to service the population by having appointments available, giving out referrals. Become a little bit more challenging now. The further we move away from 9/11, a lot of our funding was related to 9/11, and that's been waning lately. And quite frankly, I think we're about, I might be misquoting this, but we're about 1,000 members on our job that were present on 9/11, myself included. There's not many of us left that are still active members. So that to be able to service that population, we do a lot with the retirees. And basically, like you mentioned, Doctor, the retirees still come around. They go out, they go into the field, they do the outreach. They're our voice, and they tell the members what's available, and then we have to deliver. Rightfully so, becoming a little more harder in these difficult times financially to deliver. Deliver the product, to keep a good product going. But that's part of our job, right? To adapt and overcome. So it's a daily struggle.
What kind of training do the retirees get, or Like, is there any preparation for having them go out and do that outreach?
So basically, ironically, I was just looking at it. 2003, the New York City Fire Department put on their first peer training, right? And that book was developed by Frank Lito, a couple others, Claire Camarado, who was the clinical director at the time, Maliki Corrigan, who was the director. And I still have the book here today. And that, in turn, was the model that we used. Then we basically consulted with the IAFF, and their model is strongly based on the model that was developed here after 9/11 in 2003. I even looked at the books, and it's very, very clear.
Yeah.
So, if it was the other way around, we'd be, plagiarizing stuff, I imagine. But, we said, okay, here it is. And that's how we trained all our peers. All our peers were trained to that.
Right.
But the process of selecting peers is not such an easy one sometimes. Some departments they'll put out a survey monkey. And they'll say, who in your department would you talk to? Which is great. Right? And then you bring that person in and maybe an interview. Or if you do kind of an open roll call, let's say, or a casting call, that could happen too. You get a cast of characters.
Right.
People that want to help, but may not have the skills. So what we do currently is we just say, listen, we have our meetings once a month. We have a meeting at the first Friday. We have one this Friday on the 6th. That's a continuing education meeting. 4 times out of the year, we do continuing education.
For you.
And we really instituted that. I did that last year because there's so much new stuff coming out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of it is some of it's irrelevant. There's so much stuff out there at this point. We kind of use ourselves a little bit of a clearinghouse. Hey, this is what we endorse, this is what we not endorse. And then we also keep them up on their skills. Prior to that, it was, some people would come take the training and then we wouldn't see them. So we said, we can't really do that. But our workforce, when it comes on up, because we have EMS and fire, most of our fire peers are still retired members that now have seen the older retired members come into the firehouse for the past 20 years plus, 20 years plus. They retire and they say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. So we'll have them come to a meeting, kind of, introduce them to everybody. We'll send them out on some outreach calls with some of our seasoned peers. And then we kind of sit down. How did this work out? So we try not to turn people away, but sometimes we realize it may not be a skill set that they have.
Right. It has to be
developed.
Fit. It has to be the right fit.
Exactly.
As firefighters and first responders, we're brilliant at the basics. We master the art of stretching the line, and we excel at being there for those who need us most. Yet even the best of us can be caught off guard. We sometimes face unexpected challenges, like injury, cancer, or post-traumatic stress symptoms. But you're not alone. The First Responder Center for Excellence is here to equip you with the tools and resources you need to stay informed and prepared. We help you focus on staying strong, safe, fit, and resilient. Optimize your performance with cutting-edge health, wellness, and science information, from fitness to nutrition, medical evaluations to behavioral health, cancer awareness to cardiac health. We've got you covered. Remember, we're stronger together. Discover more at firstrespondercenter.org and connect with us on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. The First Responder Center for Excellence. Equip yourself with excellence for every call.
So, Drew, I'm very curious, given that with your firefighter history and I know that you attend line of duty deaths, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that? Because, you've got a foot in both worlds.
From my own perspective?
I know I should have warned you. All right. So,
let's
spoiler alert, we're going to get up and close and personal here with Drew Kane. I should have said that.
That's it's interesting that you asked that because it's not easy. It's not easy. I seek out my own therapy. I go once a week.
Good for you.
With somebody, which we advocate for everybody to do that. But I will say it's over the years, I probably didn't practice the best practices like I teach people to do that, to take care of yourself. I continue a rigid exercise routine as time permits. But it's not easy to see people that you know what they do on a daily basis. We've been, unfortunately, had several suicides of late.
Yeah.
And I think those are the ones that probably hit home the most.
The most?
Right. Yeah. I mean, a line of duty death, we took this job as first responders. We know the hazards of it. But when the hazards come from within,
correct.
You know what I mean? And then the outward action is to take your own life. That's very unsettling for first responders. It's unsettling for anybody. Don't get me wrong, but our goal is like most of our individuals, and even myself. It's become a topic that I research a lot and try to and realize that there's no answer. Right? There's no answer. I mean, we could put all the interventions in that are possible, and I think that's the thing that devastates people the most, and myself. I realize that as much as as with David as well as hey, we could have done this, we could have done that. That's what we do as first responders. Every call you go on, you think about how could you have done that better? How could you have taken that door differently? How could you have laddered that building differently? EMS, how could you have started that IV line differently or better or whatever? So when suicides occur, and we've had some active members that have taken their lives, and the services are out there. That's the thing I think that people
correct.
Understand.
Correct. And I'm sure you're well aware of I believe it was 2017, there were 7,000 firefighters that responded to a survey that was done by, what was it, NBC?
I think it was NBC. Yeah, that was a startling survey.
Yeah, so can you comment on that? Like, what did you learn from that informs you as to, what to focus on as a mental health provider?
I mean, I think we reference that survey, but we say, take that information with caution. We don't really know. I guess we could look deeper into it. But at the time when they did that was a large number, and there was a large, I think it was like 19 point something percent on that survey, 19.8%, if I remember correctly, that were suicidal ideation.
Yes.
So we try to make people understand what is suicidal ideation. What is thoughts of, so that I think as much as we know, it's a touchy subject.
It is.
But it's absolutely. I mean, all the research, but then to hope that your workforce, your members are well informed of what that is, right? So basically it's kind of like we've all thought of suicide, right? We've all thought, well, wow, how does that affect that person? How does that affect that person? That's not suicidal ideation, right?
Correct.
There's rumination, there's ideation. Suicidal ideation is when you possibly become more obsessed with that thought.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it, not necessarily making plan. Exactly. So people get, but even in that survey, having a plan, I think that was another part of that survey was still pretty up there.
Yeah.
Where people had thought about it. And I think the main thing with our occupation, police is and military.
It's even worse with police. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, their access to firearms and stuff.
Yep.
It's devastating. But I think part of that is the death that we see as first responders across the course of your career desensitizes you to death.
The concept of death. Right?
Yeah. And it's okay. It's almost giving you permission. And then if right? I think they say a firefighter is 3 times more likely to experience a suicide in their career of a coworker rather than a line of duty death, so it almost makes it okay. And I think that inward, I'm not asking for help, is still out there, believe it or not.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Well, because you guys are so hardwired to be the helpers, right? You show up on a scene, it's absolute chaos, police included, right? But the civilians don't know what to do, right? So you go in and you take care of business, right? You reinstitute control, you put the fire out, you get the victims in the ambulance and whatnot. But then when you have like demons in your head and you know what to do about that, it's not really an automatic, okay, I follow these steps, this is what I've learned to do. So that personality of I know exactly what to do if there's a fire, it doesn't apply to, what to do if I'm really feeling down and I don't want to be around people and I want to drink more and I'm not sleeping. And so anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
And I think that's also lends to society in general, the way we view mental health versus physical health. Even when you look at insurance companies, right? I mean, the whole picture of it in this country has to be looked at from a different perspective. You know, you can go, I can make an appointment right now, eye doctor, dental, whatever it is, and I have no, you know, right now there's a deficit for, I should say, qualified therapists out there. There's a lot of people who saw the what I like
the hot topic.
The pandemic effect. To me, it was the pandemic effect. People sat at home, which is great. And they
it brought out anxiety in people and depression, right? Because they were isolating and they didn't have their normal routine. And so if you want to see people fall apart, you know, like,
well, I don't think anything from out. Yes, that perspective too. But I'm also saying we found people were staying home and they went online and they took courses to become therapists.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we see that, and we've done interviews with individuals that I don't think they did anything else other than online stuff. So the workforce of therapists has changed over the past couple of years, and some positive, right? Because we have more eyes on that stuff, but some kind of negative. You know, there was years. You know, I still had the fortunate opportunity to go back to school. You know, and I still, not that I probably dating myself for age of myself, you know, but I sat in a classroom with teachers. Yeah, we did role plays and stuff, and I think that gets lost sometimes in stuff. So I think that would.
But I think this raises the urgent need for culturally competent therapists. David, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, yeah, since we're trending in that direction, we're getting ready to release a book. The launch date is September. It's called The Clinician's Guide to First Responder Mental Wellness, and it's really a distillation of a clinician's guide series we did on the podcast into a book form where we're going to address what clinicians need to know to work with the first responder population, and also dive into each one of those subspecialties, whether it's fire investigator or undercover federal agents, things like that. Exactly for this reason, because we've recognized the need for a resource for clinicians that want to work with us, hopefully for the right reasons, and to give them something that will really give them a guideline to what's involved. You know, what do they need to know?
That sounds awesome. I mean, that's neat.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, like I always say, I said, listen, if you had a tumor in your brain, you're not going to go to a podiatrist, right? You're going to somebody who specializes in that. So you go say that, you know, a clinician is going to kind of be run of the mill and diet. I mean, we experience, you have to also be able to have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, you have to know what you're going to be hearing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I think that's a long time coming, I think, but still in our experience, you know, just the insurance companies and all that stuff and paying for it, you know, and it's needs to be looked at a little bit different, but that's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Be able to accomplish, but it's every little bit counts. When I think about the, you know, Frank Lito, he always tells the story of when the clinicians and all those people first went into the firehouses, and nobody wanted to talk to them. Like I said, no, get out of here.
Right.
That, you know, to, you know, 15 years later, you know, they were the same individuals in some cases were having arguments about who had the better therapist or who was taking the better antidepressants. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Full circle. And now we have a huge spotlight on us for this.
Yeah.
And I think it sometimes, you know, you got to watch who's coming out of the woodwork sometimes. So I'll leave it at that.
You do.
Sure.
Yep.
Hey firefighters, let's take a moment to talk about something important. There's a new app built by firefighters for firefighters, and it's not just another wellness tracker or generic resource hub. It's called Crackle. You've probably seen the magazine, but this is the next evolution. The app is about one thing: helping firefighters not fail. Not just on the job, but in life. In your health, your relationships, your mindset, and your longevity. We know the culture. We know what gets ignored, pushed aside, or buried, and that's why Crackle is designed to meet firefighters exactly where they are, with resources that make sense, are easy to use, and actually respect your time. You can download the app now for free as a Legacy member. That means you get early access to exclusive content, tools, and updates as they drop. From tactical wellness to family resilience, money, sleep, and stress, Crackle is unlocking content that firefighters actually want and need. It's not about being perfect. It's about staying in the game, strong, grounded, and ready for what matters most. Use the QR code on the screen to download the Crackle app, or you can download it from the App Store or Google Play, and stay in the fight, not just at work, but at home and in your own head too. Because your best days shouldn't be behind you, they should be ahead of you.
LT, walk us through any initiatives you have going on at FDNY in terms of like the recruit academy level. Do you have mental health as like a component of the training when rookies are coming into the job now?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting that you asked that, because we have a thing that we did was through the David Lynch Foundation, was transcendental meditation. And it was kind of like, everyone kind of gets that little kind of transcendental meditation. You know, it goes back to the Beatles in the 60s and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. However, what occurred was after 9/11, very, very influential individual, Bob Roth, who worked for the David Lynch Foundation, approached Salvatore Cassano. At that time was our commissioner. Sal Cassano, incredible individual, Vietnam vet, worked his way up, became the commissioner. We weren't ready for that. The workforce wasn't ready for it, but he learned TM, transcendental meditation, and he loved it. Fast forward 20 years, you know, when I got into this position, 22 years, they approached us and said, would you try it? Would you try it? Can we reintroduce it? So we took that addiction, which is now called the Addiction Transition Program, and we taught people who came through that program TM through a grant that we got. And the outpouring of support, and it was unbelievable. Nothing like you would have thought of. Yeah, it was fantastic. Then we were able to get a little bit more additional grant, and we taught the individuals that come back for their what we call CFRD or EMS refreshers, that come back to keep their state license up. And again, we're going for another grant for it, because it had such a good response, and people liked it. It's basically, just real quick, it's a 20-minute session. There's a process of teaching it. You get taught it. You're not trained in it. And it's not like train the trainer. It has specialized teachers that come in and teach you. It's a 4-day process, but we're able to work that out with schedules. And then they ask, 20 minutes a day. If you could do it twice a day, great. And the response and the effectiveness of it was something that I hadn't seen in a long time. I think it's something that we should have in the academy, because it's something that you can do.
Oh, sure.
Oh, it's such an easy, and like we just said, there's a lot of stuff coming out of the woodwork. And this is a method that's been around for over 1,000 years.
Proven. It's been proven, and it's chemical free, right?
Exactly.
Whether it's been prescribed or you're getting it at the package store, it's chemical free.
No chemicals, and you can do it anywhere. I took it, and it was unbelievable. How you don't think you're going to be able to do it, but I can do it in my office in Manhattan, where there's sirens going off, trains and stuff, and you really can. They talk about it as the surface of the water being choppy, and you bring yourself down underneath those waves where it's a little bit more tranquil and calm. Right. Although I will say it's proven, and it's 1,200 years, but we get firefighters that still think they want to do it a different way. They'll say, "Can we do it? Can we get this? Does it have to be 4 days in a row for the teaching?" And so, it's been around for 1,200 years at least, but we're going to change.
Yeah,
firefighters have that way. It's
always.
No.
What are some other techniques that you find are effective, and also maybe touch on the SMART technique, if you could tell us what that is all about?
Well, I will say this: the SMART technique was a thing that we had got taught up at Harvard, which it didn't really come into play. We thought it was going to be something that we would be able to use here. What we're doing now, though, is EMDR. We're getting all our clinicians trained in EMDR.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm at the advanced level of doing EMDR. I've been doing it since 2007, and I have a book coming out on my focus is police. Not that I don't see firefighters or animal control or dispatch or EMS or anything. I see everybody, but I had to start somewhere. So I have a book coming out called Dump the Bucket, because I find that to be the approach. Instead of let's sit and talk about our feelings and get emotional, let's just get in there and be laser focused on the worst of your calls and clear that out and dump the bucket. So that book is going to come out probably by the end of this month. But yes, EMDR, I have found with first responders, it's the go-to method of treatment for the traumas that just get stuck and they just keep thinking about it. They can't stop thinking about it. So,
yeah, I think that, and like I said, we went through a cycle, just as people moving on after 9/11. So we lost a lot of qualified, highly qualified, experienced clinicians. Just they were done, retirement and so forth.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of younger clinicians in, which all are terrific. But that was one training and treatment modality that they had to have. So we're trying to get that back up and running. The other thing that we use, in our program, on our substance abuse program, is we, stick with AA. The 12 steps works very well for that. Works well for our population. It's something that's almost like, we're very, tangible. We can almost touch it and feel it. 12 steps in the big book and stuff like that. So something like that in EMD will work great, as well as, like I said, the TM. We're getting a lot of success.
Good for you. Yeah.
It's great that you're offering these kind of tools like early on in the career. That's a game changer right there. So appreciate that. And can you talk a little more about substance abuse, the programs you have, and how you approach it at FDNY?
Yeah. So, that was really the foundation of our program. And it really goes back to 1966. We had an individual that had a problem with substance. At that point, the inpatient facilities were kind of relatively new. They came about in maybe the 50s. AA came about in the 30s. And prior to that, people were, if you had a drinking problem, you went to an asylum, basically. And they thought you were just crazy. There was no therapeutic value. There was no recovery process. There was no spiritual process. So mind, body, spirit. And that's how it started for us. And it was, believe it or not, it was one individual. And I always joke, if you've heard me before, you probably heard the joke. I always say, believe it or not, there was a second firefighter in New York City that had a drinking problem. And I always say that because people think, we like to drink, right? So all they did at the time is they put the two of them together. And honestly, that's how the program started in 1866. And it went that way to 1973. And two individuals going to meetings, and then they hired somebody to kind of coordinate it. Then we had, I think in about 75 or 76, that same individual, when Joe Bull, unfortunately, passed away not that long ago. We're having a memorial service for him. Great innovator. And he said, we should be able to have guys come here and work on their recovery before they go back to the firehouse. And that's what they did. So the way we approach it is a hands-on type thing. If you're willing to go to inpatient treatment, because we still adhere to that model. I know there's a lot of other programs out there, a lot of other things, and we're not, against those, but we found this one to be tried and true. You have that break in your circumstance, in your drinking, in your lifestyle, and you do that for the 28 days. Almost got reprogrammed. Some guys say, I'm going to get brainwashed. I said, well, if you came here and you're sitting down with us, you probably need a little bit of brainwashing then, right? Something needs to be done. And what happened was, after that, they came to this program, which at the time was called the Day Treatment Program. It's now morphed into the Addiction Transition Program because so many other addictions, right? Sexual, internet, all that kind of stuff. And then what we do is really help the individual, just like the name says, transition back to the firehouse, back to the EMS station. And that program is based on AA in the 12 steps. If somebody comes in, they don't want to do that, that's fine too. But that's kind of the model that we adhere to. But we're always open to other things. But we just it's kind of like a mousetrap, right? We haven't found anything that's built any better than that. And and we have a great alumni. Quarterly, we do a gathering. We get over 100 people come back and they talk to each other, and that's how the program grew over the years. So that's been, and we have individual counselors, some social workers, some just straight substance abuse counselors, and that's how people get a lot of the time the foot in the door. Somebody will come through that program, show interest, and we have them come back if they decide they want to do it. So we have assigned here, and this is all through the good graces of the department. That are like myself. I'm on loan from the fire department to the counseling unit. And my job is to just help other firefighters, and EMTs and paramedics.
It's so interesting, the evolution and how many things, I guess the original version of them or the old school way of doing stuff sometimes holds up better than all the new innovations that come through. So, Stacey, you have any other questions for?
I actually have one more question. So because going to the bar after a long day as a firefighter had been such a tradition, right? How do you dispel the myth that, well, this is just what we do? We're firefighters. Who doesn't drink after a hard day or after a bad call or whatever? How do you dispel those myths?
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways, but I think one thing that has happened that I've seen in my career is it's kind of getting dispelled on its own, right? So we have a much healthier, well-informed, well-educated workforce, right? Okay. And our job as, I was one of the first classes that had bunker gear. Prior to that, it was just a turnout coat and pull-up boots. The physical demands of this job, I think, it took it to a level where, hey, you can't go out and do that all the time and still come back and go to work, right? So that was one way that the myth started to get dispelled. And I think the other thing that occurred was the family life, right? So we're big. You talk to any firefighter, we always say, how do you get a firefighter to do something? How do you get, their benefits, their anything? We approach, well, this will be good for your family, right? If you tell it's just for them, most of our guys and girls don't do it. But if you tell them this is going to be beneficial for your family, right? So we kind of come with that angle, right?
Yeah,
you have this second family that's really helping you. But if you're spending all your time with them, how are you helping your home life, right? So I think part of that, and then obviously the different laws that came out over the years. I remember at the beginning when I started doing this, DWIs were like nothing. They were, getting a DWI. You don't see that as much. The other side of that too is, guys have learned, we take Uber now, right? So some of them can actually drink more because they can take Uber. But I think the healthy, if one thing overall, I'd say the healthy lifestyle, right? The healthy lifestyle that most people live more now, and realizing that connection, that mental health and the well-being, right? The holistic approach. I think we saw the myth kind of on its own. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have still the same surge. You make events, right? You make events. You go to the events. You go to the funerals. You go to the plaque dedications. You go to the family, the family picnic. So that leaves there. But I just don't think the drinking is as prevalent as it once was.
Go ahead.
It's still there, but not as prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, great. Appreciate that, your perspective on that. Anything we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think you covered it. I think the only thing that I will say, and I think you guys kind of hit on it by the book that you're putting out, my experience here of what I've seen, and I think it's only because of the size of our department. I think you could see the same thing with a smaller department, but there's a lot of stuff out there now. There's a lot of stuff, and everyone's got to do their due diligence and take a look at what is best practices, what's tried and true. And unfortunately, when this became big business, right? People came and said, there's tons of apps, there's tons of this, and I'm not knocking one of them, right? I think this, all these websites, all these things are great, get more information out there. But our toolbox is now getting so heavy, people aren't picking up the toolbox. They just, I don't know which way to go,
Right.
And I think that's the thing that is, as a profession, first responders and mental health individuals, we have to always be aware of, because it's I see that with a lot of people. Sometimes I'll just get a phone call from someone. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, because it's just so many things. So we try at the counseling, we try to be the kind of clearinghouse. Mm-hmm. This is good at this, and just saying, like, when we use a inpatient facility, we vet that out. We go there. We don't send anybody to a place that I have either personally been or one of our staff members has been. Mm-hmm. And we know that they take our insurance. We know, we do all those things, and we try diligently to do the same even when we do referrals. So I think that would be the only thing that I've seen. There's an overwhelming amount of information that isn't always helpful.
Right. Well, that's a great service you're providing. And overall, kudos to you for all the great things you're doing for mental wellness, substance abuse, and just general overall wellness for your members. I think it's exemplary. And I think people can learn from that just by hearing you speak about it. So appreciate you spending this time with us. And where can people find you? Is there any contacts you want to share? Any social media stuff like
not on any social media? I'm not. I just fire department Andrew.Kane at FDNY.NYC.gov. That's my work email. I really don't. Unfortunately, I get enough information coming in. I don't need that too.
Sure. Well, yeah, I don't blame you.
But I probably should. I probably should. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good tool. It's a good base to have. And then thank you for having me. And things like this I think are fantastic to get the word out of what is out there and what should be used and what should not be. What needs to be looked at carefully.
Stacey, final thoughts?
It was so great to have your perspective, having, been there for 9/11 and then now, being a social worker and overseeing all these different counseling and substance abuse programs in New York City. It's just, they're very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you're going to get a lot of people to agree to that, but I appreciate your opinion.
Well, LT, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for spending this time with us and share this. And look forward to catching up with you again soon when we'll give you the heads up when we have some exciting news about books.
Yep. Oh, yes. Looking forward. Thank you for the forum and thank you for everything that you guys are doing as well.
Remember to like and subscribe to YouTube, Responder Resilience, Facebook, Responder TV. We're on LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Go to our website, respondertv.com, for past episodes and guest information. Until the next time, stay safe, be kind to yourself. Take care.